Hey there. Hello, the cock. I am posting a link as we speak on the Twitter. Can you hear the fire crackling behind me? Oops. It'd help if I would put the link in there. It's always going to take longer when I go live to post like a link or something really simple. I'm going to talk about somatics here in a bit. And I hope the title says that. Jax, good to see you. So if we can stay on the topic of somatics, I will consider it a success. I also have to run an errand at 2, so I'll only be online for, like an hour at most. If it takes that long, it could be a bust after the first sentence. I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. The difference between people is some consider that really awesome, and some consider that really, really bad. Okay, so that's posted there. 7 of you watching. Yes, Somatic Mechanics. That's right. My microphone has a short in it, so if you don't mind me, guys, I'm going to ask you, can you give me a thumbs up on the audio? Does the audio work? Because it's a different method, and because it's muted, I'm not able to test it myself. So if I could get somebody telling me how the audio is, that'd be great. Hi. Hi. Let's see. We get a thank you. Thank you much. That's all I needed to know. Okay, so all I have to do is just pop up chat. This will make my stream faster. Close this. And you're good to go. You're good to go. Happy Wednesday. Probably maybe an hour if we do that. I have an appointment with my friend Scott today. I'm go see him. But I just finished a session. I've done 3 sessions now. Actually, I've done sessions with 3 people now, and I've done a couple with each of them. And each of these sessions have been a somatic surgery. Chiropractor actually would be more like it, an alchemical chiropractic that I've been practicing. I have no license. I have no credentials. I don't think that you should consider me certified, informed, educated. None of those things. All I have are some magic tricks that I can do, that I can show you, that cause energy to move inside a body. When I first spoke about prana work, a lot of comments you'll see down the YouTube videos or other people that do this for a living telling everyone what an amateur I am. And I just want to say, feel free to like those comments. Feel free to say, yeah, that guy doesn't know anything, or he's just beginning, or whatever it is. That's cool. I don't want you ever to think that I know more or that I have any kind of expertise in this field. The only thing I've done is that I worked in a wilderness camp for about a year where I lived with kids, believe it or not. My group was 11 to 14-year-olds, and they were in the wilderness because they weren't in jail yet. They weren't in like juvenile detention center. This was like the last stop before they would go there. And in that year, which I have no certification, I'm just going to say that again, none. All I have is my wilderness first responder. It's like a first aid thing. And then when I did ski patrol, up here at my mountain, you sort of have like an advanced version of wilderness first responder. So my point is that I am not an expert, and I'm not even an amateur, because that would indicate that I was somehow practicing this. But I have been practicing it, and this is what this is. I'm coming out with it. So the somatic work that I did in this wilderness camp involved, it was like 12 kids, 11 to 14. That was my group and me. And we were living out in the woods, and the stress of the day would cause different emotions to rise to the surface. And I was one of the few counselors that really saw the benefit of having that emotion come to the surface. And I learned this new technique that I repel all shame from any kind of outburst for emotion, regardless of what it is, even if it's attention seeking. That's the perfect example of what I mean. We tend to shame each other for attention seeking. And that would be one thing that I would actually praise. I would actually say, it feels like maybe you're wanting some attention, and attention is something that we all need to survive. We are mammals. We thrive on each other's focus and attention. It should show us all how powerful we are. And so the therapy would turn into what you would normally rebuke someone for. Instead, you could just take a moment, and all of us could give someone attention, but in a nourishing kind of a way. You couldn't just say, we're not going to give Carney attention right now. You would have to set it up subtly. And this is why I call it a magic trick, because you're subtly setting up the flow of prana between two empathic beings by eliminating shame. Think of shame as like a block gate that's pinching the umbilical cord between you and someone else. And when you remove shame, you could open that up, and there is a flow that starts to happen again. This is a skill that all of us have, that we all use every day. Maybe not a lot of us have actually really looked at it as like a form of art, as a form of painting. You can play a tone with someone. You could play a song for someone energetically through your uh-huhs and your nods. You're joining in, you're accompanying them in their tone, in their song. And at some point, they're going to get to a chorus, and they're going to hand it off to you. And when you have that chorus, you have the opportunity to change that song. You could speed it up, you could slow it down, you could end it, or you could take it in a whole different direction. I tend to really like to go deep with people. So when I'm having a song with someone, and I find that they've given me the reins to change the chords, and I'm like, let's freaking go. Like, let's take this beat, man, and really drop it. And I purposely go places where they might actually feel like it's not okay to go. Anger is a perfect example of this, where someone will be like, oh, I don't want to go there because it'll make me angry. Or, oh, I don't want to go there because it's about ego. Or, oh, I don't want to go there because it's about sin. That's why intuitively, if there's anything that I do as a magic trick, it's detect, where's that clamp? Where's that shame clamp? And how can I break through that shame clamp for them by doing something that's even more shameful than they've just done? Most of the time I can do this simply just by admitting a flaw in myself, and actually not treating it as a flaw, actually just treating it as a characteristic. Be like looking at an orchid. I have an orchid that's like falling out of the pot. It's like coming out on its sides. And others might look at that as a flaw. I look at that as a feature. This orchid is, it believes that gravity should be the other way. And I honor its quest for where it feels it wants to go. It wants to ground into the roots, so to speak. So by honoring that, you then turn something shameful into an avenue where energy can flow. And the second you do that, that's when you get to kind of stand back and just go, wow, look at this. Because what was naturally trying to flow before then can now come out and flow. It's very much how a siphon works. If you've ever siphoned gasoline or moved liquid from one vessel to another, you start that suction. You actually taste a little bit of that first. And by you starting that suction, it allows the other container to then suction itself. So that is basically the mechanics of empathy-based technology. This is how you would interact with someone if you wanted to help them. And basically what you want to do is just set up a flow, set up an asynchronous flow between you two. The reason why I'm telling you guys this, and And the reason why I'm stressing how important it is that you understand that I'm not an expert, I'm not a counselor, I'm not licensed, I'm not in any way, is that I started doing this skill again from the campgrounds. I started doing this recently, and the reason why is because I was getting a lot of emails from people asking for things, sort of like they're asking for help, but what they were really doing is showing a willingness to dump their flow. They wanted to expunge and clean, have a baptism, so to speak, inside their energy. There are 7 trillion cells in your body. Most of them are neglected. Most of us set up a framework or an agenda with the world. One of my clients, it's weird to even call them clients. One of my clients was dishonoring like 5 trillion of those 7 trillion cells in her by engaging in a relationship for years and years that opened the door to lying. She basically was just allowing the lies to continue. The way to fix that is not to look at the other person's behavior. The way to fix that is to look at your own abandonment. You were abandoning, you're telling these cells inside your body, hey, I don't mind if the world lies to you. I don't mind if the world betrays you. I don't mind if the world uses you. And when you set up that flow inside your body, you're going to find yourself in a system where everyone is vampiring off of you. And the longer you have that relationship with someone, the more impossible it would feel to stop that, to break that connection. So as we learn to be more sovereign, we can only do this by learning to be more somatic. We have to learn to look at our energy traces and really understand that every relationship we have with every person in our life, good or bad, is a form of codependency. Not in an unhealthy way, but you're setting a contract up beforehand. You're creating an umbilical cord from them to you and you to them. All the energy you're sending them is going to be matched by energy they're going to be sending you. It's coaxial though. So there's an interior copper line, then there's a shielding around it, and then there's an exterior copper line. It's asynchronous. It's 2 ways at the same time. If someone's lying to you a lot, it's only because you've told your entire crew, hey, if I send energy from you out to someone else, I don't care if they lie to you. If you come back and complain that someone was lying to you, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Why? Because I want to be accepted in these waters by everyone else. And therefore, I'm willing to have you guys take the fall for living in an integrity world. It's like, that's just the price I would have to pay. I'm willing to sacrifice my crew in exchange for that. That crew is your prana. That crew is your agreement with the other person. And the more agreements you set that are unhealthy, the worse your crew's going to get. And then when you send your energy into someone else, as soon as it gets your energy, it's going to go, wait, this energy is like really used and abused. This energy is this energy of a crew that is barely staying afloat over there. I mean, the captain isn't feeding them properly. This is a malnourished crew. They're taking on water and no one's fixing it. This is why we are rejected by other people. We're rejected by other people because they are not willing to tolerate the way we would even treat ourselves. So all of this just brings the power right back to you. All of this, every bad relationship that you have, every single one is giving you the most brilliant insight into your own egoic field. Imagine what it's like to be the energy, if you want to call it the cells, the blood cells inside you. It doesn't matter what you call it, but imagine yourself being that prana, being this little child, 7 trillion little children in your body. And every time you interact and let someone into your life, you are giving them custody of your own children. And as you send these children out to play with this other person, how they treat that person is going to be completely up to you. It's going to be completely up to you from the very first day. And every day you prolong that relationship is every day that you're accepting the exact same agreement more and more. So as you find sovereignty, and I want you all to find sovereignty, what you're really doing is just looking at your children and you're saying, I don't want you going over to Billy's house anymore. I don't like the way Billy treats you. In fact, because I've had this relationship with Billy now for 17 years, it's going to be impossible for me to get Billy to correct the way he treats my children when I send them over there. That's my fault. I docked beside Billy for years and years. We set up gangplanks between the two. And this is our protocol now. This is what it's looked like. You want to put your body under new management. You want to set up a sign inside your body. You want to go back to your cockpit and turn on the PA and call general quarters. General quarters, general quarters. All stations on deck. You're returning everyone, all of your children, back to their battle stations, back to attention. The second you do that, for the first thing they're going to do is like, what the? Wait, we have a captain? Dude, that's the captain. He sounds like serious. It's like, and it's some of your crew are going to be like, yeah, fuck that guy. But they're going to get it. You're going to have to keep being captain again. It's going to be harder at the very first. At the very beginning, when you start to take over, it's going to be harder. Why? Because you've neglected that role for so long. And most of your crew has committed mutiny in broad daylight. This is what sovereignty is about. It's about reclaiming this. So call general quarters, bring them all back, and make official announcement. Crew, it's a new day. It's a new day, guys. Today, we're going to clean the ship. We're going to clean it. We're going to paint it. We're going to scrub it. It's time to make a new ship. And what you can do if you want is use some tantric breath, squeezing your sphincter and releasing it as you're inhaling and exhaling, charging that because that's a pulse. If you squeeze, I'm sorry, most of you are like, oh, guys, talking about the sphincter again. If you squeeze your sphincter and you release it as you exhale, you are sending a EMP, an electromagnetic pulse through your body. And it's funny because Tesla created the violet ray device that the FDA outlawed in the turn of the century, 20th century. And that violet ray device was doing the exact same thing to people suffering from schizophrenia. It was actually a lot of demon possessions. These things were zapping the body and giving it a reset, just like an EMP would do in the movies when it flies over a city. And when you reset, you're going to reboot. And when you reboot, you now have a new captain. And your captain can be James T. Kirk, man. It can be as badass as you want or as general as you want. You're going to know. You're going to know what kind of captain you need for that. But I want you to understand that it's all of sovereignty is somatics. Not semantics, somatics. Finding the crevices in your body that you've been abandoning for years, that you've been ashamed of for years, and sending crew in there, sending your pranic crew into that space. When you do that, you're going to oscillate in a much different way. And as soon as you do that, the people that have known you the most are going to rebel. They're going to get really pissed at you, and it's going to be hard at first. And a lot of you may feel like, I should quit. This is not worth it. This is way too hard. And it's only hard at the beginning. In fact, you will have better luck by being around strangers. You will vibrate stronger and more firm around complete strangers because you haven't set up that contract with them yet. You haven't said, this is what I find acceptable for me. This is what my crew is used to. Yeah, you could beat my crew. No problem. Yeah, you could flog them. They don't need shoes. It's okay. I know it's rusty down there in the engine room, but they're fine. They're fine. They're fine. Trust me, they've had a lot worse. Your prana, those are your soldiers. Those are your children. Those are your roots. I want you to start looking at your history, the things that have happened to you in the past, I want you to pretend like those are your ancestors, because they are. The 5-year-old inside of you is your ancestor. And you can do two things to ancestors. You can honor and remember them, or you can abandon them in broad daylight. And if you abandon them for a long time, which all of us do, even after years and years and years, the moment you start crying for them, the moment you start getting choked up thinking about them, that is gravity. You are creating a gravity to your ancestors, to your 5-year-old, to your 12-year-old, to your 2-year-old. And you're reaching down there with a root of empathy. These capillaries are surrounding them in the past. And you're saying, I forgot about you, but I remember you now. And you're doing two things when you do this. Not only are you healing the past and tapping into your ancestors, but now your ancestor is giving you prana back. It's telling you, thank you. Holy shit, that was bad. Or where the fuck have you been? Thank you so much. Thank you. Can we get hot chocolate or something? Because wow, it's so good to see you. You're going to have this constant resolving with parts of yourself you didn't even know. Someone's going to tap you on the shoulder and go, Captain, did you know we have a level D deck? And you're going to be like, no, we don't. You're like, dude, we've got a level D deck. It's like below the forecastle of the ship. There's like a whole other thing down there. And you're going to be like, that's impossible. It's like, no, come here, look. And you're going to go look. And there's going to be like a crate of graham crackers down there. And you can be like, holy shit, we have graham crackers now. This is freaking fantastic. And all your men are going to be like, yay, graham crackers. It's this reclamation. And every time you do that, every day you get on that speaker and say, General Quarters, I'm sorry I had to assemble you guys. I know you're busy. I just wanted to say, fucking love you. Like even that, if you keep doing that, what you're doing is, check this out. I'm 48. So if I did this right now, I'm going to do this right now at 12:40 on November 20th. I am creating a timestamp. I'm creating a pranic bubble right now of, wow, James, you really love yourself. This is fantastic, because right now I'm filling this bubble up with this message to myself. How important it is to not abandon myself. How important it is to somatically reach myself. And now at 48, after I'm clearing this with you as witness, I'm pouring prana into this. You guys give me some too right now in here. When I'm 54 and I remember back, I'm not only going to remember the times that I was abandoning myself, I'm going to remember the times that I was powering myself up. When I was leaving these crates, like you'd find in a video game, right? of the medicine crates. Or if you're wandering through the jungle and there's a banana, you're leaving these things with your ancestors. It's amazing, because if you think about what Egyptian culture did, they would bury their dead with things they would need. That's what I want you to do right now. But understand that your dead, your ancestors, are younger versions of yourself. Those are your ancestors too. And the more that you honor them, the more that you honor your 5-year-old, your 12-year-old, you're going to gain more and more ability, empathic ability. Keep in mind, empathy is a root that stretches out. The stronger your empathy, the thicker that root goes. And the thicker that root goes out, the more it's going to be able to pull nutrients from other people, create that asynchronous connection again. You get it? So if you can tap into your 5-year-old, you've now set up an avenue to tap into your ancestor and your great-great-grandfather and your great-great-great-great-great-grandmother. We aren't tapping into our ancestors right now. When they tell you that the world has amnesia from world history, the reason why the world has amnesia is because you have amnesia. and I have amnesia. And it's somatic amnesia. It's when we call our ancestors savages, when we call them cruel or brutal or psychopathic or whatever, when we call demons evil, when we insist that every spirit that is out there is evil, except for one, that one's good, the Holy Spirit, but everyone else is evil, what you're really doing is you're telling your ancestors, fuck you. You're telling all their spirits, I cast you out, you're evil. If you were to ever arise in the grove or in the pole or inside of someone else, it could only be because you're evil. What you're really doing is you're denying empathy towards anyone, anyone's ancestors. And some of you are going to be like, oh God, he wants you to ingest Satan or whatever. And I can't stop how you're going to interpret that. I can only tell you that if you understand the truth about what demons are, that these are an etheric technology, it becomes very, very plain to see that an etheric technology doesn't have the rendering ability to determine good from evil. Only you can do that. And you need a system to do that. You need an endocrine system. You need adrenals to determine what is good and evil. You need a calorically intense brain to plot lies into the future and deceive someone. Demons don't have this kind of hardware. They're etheric spells. They're software. It's no more intelligent than you giving credit to Facebook for the beautiful conversation you had with Alyssa. These ancestors are going to feel like amnesia until we tap into our internal ancestors, our 5-year-old, our 12-year-old, our 26-year-old. Until we can start understanding that it's bravery that pulls truth from the air. It's not majority rule. It's not zeitgeist. And it's not being polite. It's learning about yourself by making it worthy of the failure to at least try, to at least tap into that same kind of energy. I hope that makes sense. Someone asked a question, and it's been 5 days, and I hope that she doesn't think that I was ignoring this. Does following an archetype disempower your ego? Your ancestors are another kind of archetype. For you to follow anyone, following someone doesn't take away from your ego. Because when you're following someone, what you're really doing is that you're giving them, you're delegating them your ego, your trust. Now, that's a transaction. That's a prana transaction. It's really no different than going to Vegas. You're in the World Series of Poker, and you're putting your prana into the pot because you've seen that river card. And you're like, oh man, here comes a flush. I know it. I know it. I believe it. And there's where the courage comes in. You've got the courage that you have the truth. And that courage is going to either make you bet on it or fold. Folding is not an act of humility. Folding is an act of cowardice. You can change your bet. You can change what you believe and say no. But this idea that taking a chance at truth is going to be an act of being polite is not how you get truth. That's how you get conformity. And the reason why they shit on ego so much is because they don't want you to be as brave. Because when you're not as brave, you're not willing to take a chance. You're the kid at the edge of the diving board going, oh, it's too high. The high dive is, I don't know. I don't know. We have to embrace that fear and measure it against our truth. This is what we do every single day. We fight our battles, and you're only going to win the ones that you've got the cards in. Because if you're going to walk away after it's called and after it's folded and you're already out, it means nothing that you thought you had the right answer. It means nothing. The transaction's over. So think of these archetypes as instruments for you to kind of pick. It's a lot like tongs, and the truth is boiling pot. And you use these archetypes like tongs to grab these rocks or potatoes or whatever's in the boiling pot and pull it out. It requires that faith that it's there, requires the lack of fear from the heat, requires the assurity that what you see is going to come true. If your ego's strong enough and you're wrong, all that's going to do is power you up even more. Because the next time you go up for that pot, you weren't beating yourself up because you were wrong. You were like, well, that was embarrassing. I really made an ass out of myself because I was this or I was that. But you also learned. You learned because you lost a little bit in the transaction. You understand what I'm saying? The final card that's pulled over, that's the bet. And if what you thought was true is wrong, you lose all that prana. And thank God, because that loss of prana is what makes you a better discerner next time. If instead you're just sitting back and you're like, I don't know what the truth is, I'm just going to watch them, you're never, ever, ever going to learn anything. Because truth is always an exchange. Alchemy, turning lead to gold, turning lies to truth, requires calories, requires you have to burn something for that. We live in that world. That's how physics works. All energy is a creation and exchange. There's not a free lunch. Even though I use the word magic, none of my magic, this is why it's so funny, because someone called me a magician the other day, and I was like, no, I'm an alchemist. A magician will make things appear that weren't there. An alchemist will amalgamate something from one into something else. That's all the magic I do. Every single thing that I do about magic, if you read about it, you will see that it comes down to alchemy. Because I want to take something that is there and change what it is into something else. It's leveling up or leveling it down. Most of us level our shit down because we're ashamed that we're wrong. It's like being ashamed of kicking that soccer goal and missing. There's no shame in that. And yeah, you're going to be worried about, oh, well, was I being a ball hog? All those worries are good. Those are all good. And when you miss, you miss. Feel that. Don't abandon yourself in the miss, because if you abandon yourself in the miss, you're either going to not shoot next time or you're going to miss again. Take that miss and put it in the center of your table and go, look, I missed. Look, I scored a goal on my own team. Put that back in yourself. It's going to feed you, because you're going to turn a lesson into a truth, and you're going to carry that for the rest of your life. And no one else is going to have that, because they didn't lose that exchange. They didn't burn something in exchange for it. This is truly the meaning of sacrifice, guys. It's why they're trying to teach you the system. Oh, sacrifice is bad. No, this is exactly how it works. A mother sacrifices her life for her child. I sacrifice part of my time for my dogs, just part. I do that for my plant, my orchid, for my career. Sacrifice is literally every single thing you do. Why? Because you're sacrificing your time. You're giving the most valuable thing you have, pranic, temporal essence. And we all pretend like we have it, it's unlimited resource. Or we do even worse. We put a value on it. Because the second you put a value on time, you make it worthless. You're saying my time's worth $50 an hour. What is $50? It comes back to this prana. It comes back to this exchange. If you want to do alchemy, you're going to have to put something in the test tube. You got to put something in there. And what you put in, it's going to be a reflection of what you put out. That's why they call it alchemy. Hey, I got a super chat. Thank you, Jax. I have to hit this with a hatchet. My pin's gone. That's kind of a shitty ding. There we go. Thanks for the chat. This somatic work that I'm talking about, I think I'm going to keep doing it. It's like I feel it pull myself out of me when I'm talking to someone else, like really powerful. It's really powerful. And it's given me a lot of gnosis into my own shit too, into my own stuff. I got a lot of issues, guys. And I probably definitely doing better than some of us. But the more I do this somatic stuff, the more I realize just how many issues, just how many issues I have too. Food's one. I'm admitting that now. I have an egoic breach in my hull, and it happens whenever I ingest sugar. I'll put sugar in my mouth, and 3 days later, I'm possessed, fucking abandoned 7-year-old is what I am. So I hope I'm not presenting myself as this expert or this guru. What you're seeing is just raw. What you're seeing is raw ego, and I'm proud of it. I'm harnessing it. I'm building it up stronger. I'm sphincterally increasing my ego. I'm not looking at it going, I have to shed this ego. I'm getting ready to go see somebody. I'm doing the opposite. And when people throw rocks at me, because my ego is so strong, I'm able to take that as a compliment. I'm able to look at someone's attack and go, wow, that person really thinks I'm powerful. How do you know that? Because they just insulted the shit out of me. Like they just said something so mean that it just has to prove that they think I can take it. It would be like coming up to a kid's fort, right? And demolishing it with a bulldozer. No one would do that. If you saw a kid's fort, and you really wanted to hurt the kid, you would just pull the chair out or kick it out. But if you show up with a bulldozer, it's because you see that as a fortress. You're like, oh, this is the wall of China. James is the wall of China. If I'm going to make him feel my wrath, it's going to have to be a bulldozer. Do you see how I alchemically turned an insult into a power-up? Man, I hope that makes sense, guys. Because as you're doing that more and more, that's what makes your egoic shield get stronger. That's what makes your crew come back and go, did you see what the captain did? Holy shit. There was like this submarine came behind us and he shot this torpedo, and the captain, he's like flipped the ship. He freaking did a complete 180 in the ship, and we turned around, we took that torpedo and he caught it. And then we turned it around and spun it and went right back and hit him. It was amazing. And your crew's going to be like, we can do anything. Look how powerful we are. What a badass captain we have leaving our ship. He's going to be like, General quarters. With all you guys to eat your green beans today. Some of you guys are not eating enough greens, man. And I'm telling you, I'm giving you the order. You're going to eat more green beans. And all your crew's going to be like, fuck yeah. Love this guy. Love this guy. And every one of those guys that are like, fuck that guy, it's going to be more expensive for them to do that every time. Every time. And some of them will die. Some of them will be like, fuck that. I was really used to this pattern. I can't have it. And that's fine. Because the moment you get rid of them, more prana will come in. And it will be fresh recruits. And you will be training it so much better. Why? Because in boot camp, you're telling it, ego's good. Ego's good. Lying is bad. Truth takes courage. You're telling them all these things over and over again. And they're leaving boot camp already with a different vibration of like, no, we don't play that game, homie. We don't play no narcissist on this ship. If you're going to come on this ship, we're going to empathically look at you and determine you have a deficit, and we're going to give you some energy. That's how we do it. And then when you set up a connection with another ship, the second your crew goes over there, the second, their captain's going to be like, oh my God, this guy runs an amazing ship. And that literally is what charisma is. That's literally the power of charisma. When you see someone else and you're attracted to them, by knowing them, you're already exchanging crew. we can't help it. If you know someone, you're exchanging that crew. And the crew's coming back and you are jealous of how well the crew looks when they get home. And that's why you have to, if you need enough ego, because if you have enough ego, that jealousy is going to be different. It's going to have enough gear. It's going to have enough juice in it to turn into you in training with that captain to become a better person, to treat your crew better is what I mean. You're already an amazing person. You just have been told that if you yell into the mic that that's bad, but it's the exact opposite. So call general quarters on your crew. Tell them how important they are. Tell them how you're changing some things on the ship. And some of you are going to have to get used to a different lifestyle. And it starts with green beans or whatever. It's laying down authority is a form of anti-abandonment. That's really why we keep using the word sovereign. That's why all of us who are in this chat understand the power of the world's sovereignty. Because to be sovereign of yourself is to accept every single part. Anyway, that's probably all I got for now. Yeah, I like it when I talk about the crew too, Scott, because we need to be doing that. We need to be talking about the crew. Because if we leave our engine room and it goes on autopilot, someone really far away from us starts running things. I'm gonna go meet my friend Scott. I'm gonna keep working on this with this somatic work. I'd like us all to. And I think about this as like an opportunity. All of us have these opportunities for these dojos where we can go in. I'm tempted to tell you guys about my hair. I now that I'm live streaming more, it just really comes to fruition that I have to stop cutting my own hair. That I'm sort of disrespecting you guys by showing up this way, and that's disrespecting myself too. So I have work to do. Like there are things I have to work on. And I appreciate you sticking with me as I grow. These are. I just want you to know that the hair thing for me is evidence of my egoic shell. Like I can't stress enough how much this helps me. Is what I'm trying to say. That this is an asynchronous connection for me too, and I hope it does the same for you guys. Despite what I might show up with next time. I especially it's when I look at the back, guys, that's when I really notice that I cut my own hair, because I could see these like Chernobyl patches of of situations where I've thought I've done that. So yeah, the thing is about shaving it is Clint, is that I end up I feel like there's some kind of antenna thing, and I really like being able to see how insane or how normal my hair is. It's kind of like it's like a, what do you call it? A gauge, a temperature gauge on your engine. I can look at my hair and I can understand, okay, I'm a little bit wired or I'm a little bit too subdued. And it kind of helps me dictate what I should be working on right now. If I'm a little bit wired, it's probably a chance for me to kind of clean and kind of like settle down, maybe get some rest and stuff. If it's too subdued, it's time for me to take my pants off, kind of loosen up a little bit, get back into my flow, that kind of thing. So anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot. Hey, tonight I'm live on RX Picture Show. If you guys aren't familiar with that, I need you to be. I'm not going to be able to pull a link up. It's going to take too long for me to find it, I'm sure. Actually, I want to see if I can pull a link up. But if you want to look it up, it's RX Picture Show on Twitter, and then that I should have his channel right here. But it's Jim and SB, and I freaking love those guys. I'm so excited about about being back with them. And we're going to talk about space tonight. We're going to talk about deep space and all the things that have happened as a result of that. So, hey, while I'm waiting for this, you guys could completely buy my book. Most of you already have. I've seen so many of you guys in there, so thank you. And you also could join our Patreon film project. We've got some cool stuff going. We have our first markup meetup coming on this Black Friday. So I welcome you guys to that. Thanks for holding while I'm looking for the RX Picture Show link. The reason why I knew it would take a little bit is because they took last week off, and Sean's. I need to. Okay, this is going to take too long because Sean has a timeline that I got to go through. The sorry, where's the chat window? RX Picture Show is the keyword that you look for. If you look for that on YouTube, you will find it. So I'll be on there tonight, and thanks for being here. Remember the Alamo. Call General Quarters right now. Like, call General Quarters. Just see what happens. Even if you call General Quarters, say, yeah, I'm the captain. I just want to call General Quarters. That's all. They'll like it automatically because they see you thinking about it. They see that you understand that they're there. All right? All right. Bye.